This kind of instability wrecks confidence, delays investment, and rattles markets. We've seen it time and again, folks, from trade and taxes to tariffs and public health. Governing by chaos is no way to run an economy. We need direction, folks. Hello, welcome to this week's Economy. I'm your host, Dr. Vance Ginn. Thank you for joining me again today. It's a pleasure to have you join me. Remember, you can find this podcast wherever you get your podcast and go to my show notes at vanceginn.substack.com. Well, look, after the past couple of weeks, we took a great family vacation out to Colorado, spent some good time in Colorado Springs, up in Denver, went on a train ride up to the top of Pikes Peak. That was amazing. The kids loved it. And so it was really good to get away and rest some. However, it was heartbreaking to hear what was going on in Texas, where I live, just west of here in Kerrville and other places, even in Georgetown, which is nearby where I live. All of the devastation happening with these floods and flash floods and everything else. While our area was spared, the grief and devastation in nearby communities are deeply felt, and my prayers are with the families who are mourning and those beginning the hard work of rebuilding. It's a crazy time, and my heart just goes out to all of them. And so I hope that my prayers will be heard. I know they will be. And I know that many of these people will hopefully be able to rebuild as quickly as possible and be able to reach out to those who need it and turn to God and say your prayers as well. So keep them in your prayers just like I am. On the policy front, it's usually slow, as I mentioned previously in one of my episodes, but we've got the one big beautiful bill. We've got a special session starting in Texas next week. So there's a lot to catch up on overall. So let me break these down for you as we go through this. Be sure to share this with your friends and family as well, as they too need to know about how to make sure that this week's economy is up to them. So, number one, the One Big Beautiful Bill aftermath. In the news, President Trump signed the One Big Beautiful Bill after it passed the House on a slight majority vote, just ahead of Independence Day deadline, which is an arbitrary deadline. The bill extends key provisions of the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, while it trims spending growth in programs like Medicaid and SNAP. It significantly increased funding for border security, defense, and energy production, but it adds trillions of dollars to the deficit because of overspending. My take on this is that we should be clear. This OBBB is good, but not great, like we would expect it from a Republican trifecta. Yes, it makes much of the pro-growth 2017 tax cuts permanent. And yes, there are few worthwhile reforms, such as making full expensing or bonus depreciation permanent and closing certain Medicaid eligibility loopholes. But that alone doesn't make the bill, quote unquote, beautiful, and certainly not big in the way we need. Bigger government does not mean better policy. The OBBB barely dents our spending crisis. What we get instead is a Frankenstein's monster of populist giveaways, short-term tax tweaks, and fiscal illusions. It expands government from both ends, more military and border spending for the right, more tax credits and special interest carve-outs for the left. According to Epic's latest budget scorecard, we're still running nearly $2 trillion annual deficits. That's not a win. It's a warning sign that we're going off the cliff. What we need is a tax code that lifts everyone. The fact that this was the best we could get under GOP control should alarm anyone who cares about limited government. Republicans need to recall that what made the original TCJA effective, lower broad-based rates, full expensing, and a pro-growth agenda. Instead of drifting towards populism with tariffs, tax loopholes, and expanded quote-unquote entitlements, we should be pursuing real fiscal reform, less spending, real spending caps, and a broad tax base focused on consumption, and renewed trust in markets and families over bureaucrats. Related to this is read my in-depth breakdown of the bill in my recent Substack post. Number two, tariffs and the market health. In the news, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent announced that the U.S. will revert to steep country-specific tariffs rates in early August as the current pause expires. Following President Trump's announcement of new tariffs on countries such as Japan, South Korea, and South Africa, the stock market suffered a decline. My take is that tariffs are taxes. Congress, not the executive branch, should hold the power to levy taxes. Congress should retake that power and make sure that they are the one doing this instead. These Trump-imposed tariff hikes are sowing economic uncertainty, and there's no indication that the administration plans to stop raising them without congressional intervention. If this continues unchecked, the fallout could rival or exceed the damage done by the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act of 1930 that contributed to the Great Depression. Uncertainty here, it has many consequences. This kind of instability wrecks confidence, delays investment, and rattles markets. We've seen it time and again, folks, from trade and taxes to tariffs and public health. Governing by chaos is no way to run an economy. We need direction, folks. Leaders like Argentina's Javier Milei are showing what's possible, cutting government spending and restoring faith in free markets. Here in the United States, we have the tools. What's missing is the political will. America doesn't need economic nationalism with hidden taxes. It needs a clear vision rooted in liberty, sound policy, stability, open markets, and limited government. Don't miss my recent newsletter breaking down common misconceptions about tariffs and the tax cuts in the OBBB. It's called Will Trump's Tariffs Undermine OBB's Wins? You don't want to miss that. I really try to break it down as quickly and succinctly as possible. Number 3, upcoming Texas special session. In the news, a special session of the Texas legislature is set to begin on July 21st. Governor Abbott has released the final agenda, which includes items such as banning taxpayer-funded lobbying, providing property tax relief, imposing local spending limits, and more. My take is that this gives a second chance to do good, but it could do harm. While another opportunity to address these issues is welcome, there's real concern that the legislature could double down on the wrong priorities. That's why we shouldn't get too excited when a special session is called, because too often it becomes a vehicle for making things worse, not better. So what's the real reason for the session? Well, this special session exists to address bills that the governor vetoed or wasn't included. He vetoed things like SB 3, which would have banned products from hemp. And he also vetoed SB 974, which would have allowed teachers to serve on appraisal boards. A clear conflict of interest, of course. Were the right calls overall. By both bills were textbook examples of government overreach driven by rent seekers rather than being grounded in sound economics or real policy needs. Limiting government overreach helps families, law enforcement, and local economies. It's time to move beyond the outdated instinct to ban, punish, and control what isn't understood. We need to evaluate the agenda, from an objective standpoint. Now the governor's Abbott agenda is out, it's clear that the session is likely to address real needs such as local spending limits, a ban on taxpayer-funded lobbying, and property tax relief. However, other issues such as regulating hemp products, allocating more funds toward flood emergencies, and other items that expand government are questionable at best, but mostly represent bad policy that should be done by people or local governments instead. They can only meet during the special session for 30 days. So let's see what happens. It's going to be a wild time. I wrote down the good, bad, and the ugly from the last legislative session in episode 114 of This Week's Economy. So check that out. Number 4, will AI take your job? In the news, recent waves of corporate layoffs have reignited concerns about the impact of artificial intelligence, AI, on the labor market. Ford CEO Jim Farley predicted that AI could eventually have the number of white jobs in the United States. He's not alone. Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei similarly warned that the AI could eliminate 50% of entry-level white-collar jobs in just a few years. My take is we need to look at from disruption to innovation. AI anxiety is nothing new. An IMF study stated last year that 40% of global jobs are exposed to AI in some capacity. But history shows we tend to adapt to disruption and often turn into progress. AI, which is essentially advanced computing, presents an opportunity not just to replace tasks, but to rethink how we work and create value. We also should look at pausing state AI regulations. An explosion of state-level AI bills across the country of more than 1,000 bills this year threaten to fracture innovation and undermine U.S. competitiveness. Unfortunately, a proposed federal moratorium on new state AI laws didn't make it into the final one big, beautiful bill. Congress should revisit this. We don't need 50 states with conflicting rules, slowing down the digital economy with red tape and political theater. And what about labor in the age of AI? Well, for workers, especially those in high-skilled or entry-level white-collar roles, this shift is a signal to evolve, not panic. We should encourage reskilling, upskilling, and exploring new career paths rather than restrictive policies. Free markets thrive when individuals are free to innovate, adapt, and grow without government barriers. I previously wrote about the benefits of a federal pause on new state AI laws while I was up in the OBB. Okay, so go check that out on the show notes page as well. Number 5, misleading American job gains data. In the news, the Trump White House touted new figures from the Labor Department's June jobs report that shows a significant shift in the workforce. The number of foreign-born workers fell by 348,000 from May and has dropped by more than 543,000 since January. In contrast, in contrast here, what we're seeing is that you had a lot more of an increase in U.S.-born workers or native-born workers, right? And that brings the total gain since the start of the second Trump administration to over 2 million of those individuals. And Fox and others have made this a point of contention to say, look, a lot of jobs were going to foreign-born workers or illegal immigrants or something else and not to native-born workers, and trying to make some sort of tension there. So my take of this is that this is a pointless comparison. This is a misleading stat to celebrate. The vast majority of quote-unquote foreign-born workers are legal U.S. residents who are born in a country other than the United States. Surely the Trump administration knows this. Immigration makes us stronger. Why does the administration push these arguably xenophobic talking points? We should focus on getting work done, regardless of where someone was born. Smart immigration reform will help industries access the workers they need, easing labor shortages without putting extra strain on taxpayers. So what's a better path forward? A market-based visa system could fix our broken immigration process. One idea is an auction model where employers bid for visas based on skills and economic needs. This would help match willing workers with open jobs, ensuring meaningful contributions to our economy and reducing dependency on public resources. Related to this is more information on immigration reform is in my piece in the Washington Times last year. And so I have some information that you want to check out in the show notes page. So with all that, thanks for joining me in the episode of This Week's Economy. For more insights, visit vanceginn.com and get even more information with a paid subscription to my Substack newsletter at vanceginn.substack.com. Thank you for joining me again today. Please share this with your friends and families. And until next time, let people prosper and God bless you.